day 3 of Race the Journey. So thank you so much for being here. For everyone who is joining me here live from all over the world, which is always just so exciting and means so much to me that you take this time for both, the information that I share, but also for yourself. It really, it is a lot. We're going to get started today. Now, the quick Gen chat for the session this morning is one of my favorite things to teach students about. And it is what stress is and does to your body and why it's important to know all of these things when you're trying to conceive. And to really understand stress, we need to talk about the nervous system. And so we include a mini science lesson in our session today. So we are going to begin, first of all, by talking about what stress is. And I think the best way to understand this is to understand what it isn't. And stress is not an emotion. So much of what we're kind of told about stress is, I'm feeling so stressed, I'm got this sort of stressful feeling within my body. It isn't an emotion in the same way that we feel things like joy and sadness and happiness and anxiety. Stress is actually a physiological response that your body and your brain have to a perceived threat or danger. And I think that's really important to understand because, emotions are things that we feel kind of without sort of knowing and, without being able to really change. But once you realize that stress is a physical process and reaction, and once you become aware of that process, it is actually really easy. Well, easy. It is simple to address it and to be able to offer yourself and your body tools to help rebalance it. So it is not an easy thing to do, but it is simple when you know how it all works. So I want to talk about the 3 ways in which stress affects your body, your overall health, and your fertility. They all link together and then they all lead into what we're going to quickly talk about with the nervous system. So first of all, stress hormones, particularly cortisol, interferes with healthy ovulation and implantation of an embryo. It also puts you into a constant state of fight or flight, and this shuts down all of those non-essential functions within the body that we aren't needing for immediate survival. So things like digestion, higher order critical thinking, immune response, and reproduction. And the third thing is that stress impacts sleep in a really big way. And we need sleep and we need to be able to drop into that parasympathetic state in order to get into a good sleep. And that then will, if we can't get into that state, it will then impact our production of melatonin. And melatonin has a flow-on effect for the rest of the cascade of hormones that you are needed to get through your day, to be able to balance your body. Sleep is just, I think we all know this, right? It's one of those sort of magic cures that isn't always the easiest thing to come by. And just on top of all of this, overall, stress just makes your life miserable. Even if you're not trying to conceive, if you've got a constant stressor in your life, perhaps a family member is sick or you're dealing with problems in your job or your relationship, having constant stress in your life just makes every little thing so difficult. And stress is going to keep coming at you, especially when you are going through something like infertility. And when you start going down the route of treatments and medicated cycles and IVF, there's no way to stop all of the stress that is coming into your world. But what we can change is our response to it. And that's where all of the practices that I teach can make a really huge difference. So we get to have a quick science lesson now. I will keep this brief, but it's a really important way to understand how your brain and your mind works. So when we are thinking about our brain, we've got a really big kind of gland, the control center of your brain called the hypothalamus. And this kind of regulates everything that's happening within your body. It's telling your heart to beat, it's telling your stomach to digest, it's telling your hair to grow, all of these things. Behind the brain, you've got another little gland called the pituitary. And the pituitary is that sort of control center for the hormones. So the hypothalamus is telling the pituitary gland which hormones to produce and when. And then lastly, we've got this little guy called the amygdala. And the amygdala in your brain is kind of like the watchtower, like the security guard. And it has one job, and that is to look for threats all day, every day, and ensure your survival. So at every moment of the day, your amygdala is looking around your environment, looking for signs of safety or danger. You know, you're crossing the road, we're looking out for cars. You know, we're walking down a dark alley at night. Is it safe? Is there anyone around me that's making me feel unsafe here? Perhaps we're, you know, just sitting in our lounge room on the couch, reading a book with a cup of tea. You're looking for all those signs of, oh, this is a safe place to be. We can relax. We can drop into that beautiful state of parasympathetic response. So at all the times of the day, this amygdala is on the lookout. It never stops. But the problem is, it doesn't understand the difference between there's a stranger behind me in a dark alley and I'm terrified that my next embryo transfer isn't going to be successful, or I don't know what I'll do if this pregnancy test isn't positive because the last time it was negative, we had a fight with my partner and it affected my work and I felt like I couldn't talk to my friends and I feel like my life is falling apart. To your brain, all of these stresses are one and the same. They are a threat to your survival. So what happens is the amygdala then says to the hypothalamus, danger. There's something going on here that we need to start protecting and ensuring our survival about. So what it does is the amygdala goes, all right, hypothalamus, let's get ready to fight. Let's get ready to run. Let's get ready to play dead, whatever we need to do to ensure survival. So then the hypothalamus will tell the pituitary gland, hey, we don't need some of these really big processes in the body that are taking away energy from running and fighting. So let's start to shut down digestion. We will affect then the function of our thyroid. We will affect things like, you know, that critical thinking. So that's why we find it hard to really focus on projects, concentrate at work. You know, we've got this kind of like running dialogue in our heads at all times. And your brain just doesn't get a chance to rest. And of course, as I alluded to earlier, the biggest problem with all of this when we're talking about fertility is that you don't need to reproduce in order to survive. That's kind of it's going to be like a cherry on top when you're living a comfortable life, right? In terms of your brain, that's not going to be a priority at all. So this becomes problematic and, you know, it does sound pretty dire and in extreme cases it is. But we also know that people in stressful situations fall pregnant. You know, people in war zones, people in abusive relationships, they fall pregnant. So stress isn't the be all and end all of your ability to get pregnant. So I don't want you to think that because I'm feeling like I have a stress response, it's going to affect my chances of getting pregnant this month. It's not exactly how it works, but it can make things much more difficult. And I think it was on Monday I alluded to this kind of really common story that I see. So I'll have students that come to me who have been trying to conceive for a year or two, and they'd say, you know, I used to have a really regular cycle. It was 28 days. I'd ovulate regularly. And now after a year or two of trying and seeing doctors and treatments not being successful, my cycle's now all over the place. You know, sometimes it's 24 days, sometimes it's 31 days. I'm not ovulating regularly. I don't really get a strong, ovulation response on any of those tester kits. You know, it just becomes unpredictable. Your cycle can become unpredictable. And this is usually a sign of stress, long-term stress. It is the production of cortisol. So your adrenal glands, which just sit around the lower back, just sort of near the kidneys, they're the ones that pump out your stress hormones. And cortisol in particular is the one that really messes up with your reproductive hormone production. So what do we do about all of this? And like I said, it isn't easy, but the practices are quite simple. And the biggest thing that you can do is just become aware of when you are having a stress response. You know, I had one this morning. You know, I'm I'm waiting on a deadline. I'm waiting on someone to send me something. They told me they're not going to get it ready in time. Straight away, my stress response kicked in. My heart started racing. I started to breathe more quickly. I just felt irritable, like I couldn't sit still. I had to just take a moment, realize I'm having a stress response. This isn't normal. My reactions in this moment aren't going to be probably what I want. So it's going to be different for everyone. You know, you will start to recognize the signs the more that you become aware of your body in the moment. So when we are able to become aware, that's where we then have the power to change things. And the most powerful tool that you have available to you at any moment is your breath. That is the number one go-to. And I mentioned this yesterday as we were doing several breathwork practices. You know, when we are in that state of fight or flight, our breathing becomes quite rapid. And so the first thing that we need to do is slow down the breath, particularly your exhale. And that exhale stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So that is the state that we want to be in order to come into a place of regulation, in order to, we call it the rest and digest state. So you can start to let your body come into a place of calm. So you can use your breath anywhere at any time, you know. We can do it driving. We can do it while we're sitting in a meeting. We're talking to our fertility doctor. If we're sitting in a waiting room, we're waiting for an important phone call. You can use your breath at any moment. The other thing I notice with stress, with pretty much all of my students, and I know this with myself as well, sometimes, you know, these calming practices are not what you need in the moment. You know, it's all very well to get on your yoga mat and do some like beautiful, gentle yoga flows and, you know, just come into this lovely place of feeling peaceful. But when you're in a stress response and you're agitated and you can't sit still, you have to move. So what I recommend are, there are so many practices that you can do in order to kind of get that energy kind of circulating and out of the body. You need to disperse it. So we can go for a walk, get outside, you know, just pound your feet on the pavement, just get it out. We do shaking. I really love shaking as an exercise for stress release. So shake out your arms, your legs, like go crazy, like no one's watching. Hopefully no one's watching. Screaming, crying, all of these things, just get it out. And then I find that we can start to come into some of these more gentle practices to kind of bring that nervous system back down. And there's so much of what I teach and so much of what I put into my fertility program gives you practices to do at all of these kind of stages. So it's a lot of talking, as always. If you have more questions about this and kind of how you can work with it and how you can use these tools more specifically for you, please let me know towards the end and we can open it out for questions and have a big chat about it. But I also should point out that things like yoga and meditation and breath work and anything else that brings you into your body, things like walking, getting outside, you know, just breathing, eating your lunch out in the park in the sunshine, all of these sorts of things are regulating practices. And your nervous system, if it has been in a state of fight or flight for a long time, it's not going to be a quick fix to get you sleeping better, feeling more regulated, feeling hungry in the morning, all of these things that tend to just stop happening when we are stressed a lot. So it is going to take time. So your brain needs constant reminders and you have to be consistent. And it doesn't have to be an hour-long yoga practice every day. Goodness, no. It'd be great if we all had that kind of free time. But if it's 5 minutes of deep breathing when you wake up, and then 10 minutes of laying with your legs up the wall at the end of the day, and then practicing again some slow, deep breaths as you're going to sleep. You know, just how can you find moments throughout your day to really bring awareness to your body, how you're feeling, and into your breath is such, I can wait, you know, I start slowing my voice, slowing my breathing. It just makes such an immediate impact. But it's like going to the gym. You know, you're not going to go to the gym once and end up with, you know, the six pack. You've got to keep working on it. So these tools are going to help you throughout your fertility journey, but also throughout your pregnancy, through birth and through motherhood. So we're going to get into it. Today's practice is going to be a really regulating, calming practice. So all of the poses that we'll do, again, it's a really slow flow. And we want to keep working on all the things that I've spoken about previously, like increasing that circulation within the body and opening out tension and tightness into some of the areas that we hold it, like the hips, the upper back, the shoulders. And we'll finish with a guided meditation. And there are so many ways in which you can meditate. But I think for a lot of us, just, sitting down, being really still and quiet and focusing on breath is hard. So that's why a guided meditation can sometimes be a little easier for people. So we'll get to that as well. We're going to begin. So let's come to our yoga mats. If you have a little cushion or a pillow that you want to sit on, use that. It's not essential, but I want you just to get really comfortable. So we are going to begin actually today in child's pose. So if you're using a little pillow for seated work, just pop it off to the side and we'll come back to it a little bit later, okay? So let's begin just by opening the knees to a comfortable place. And then just start to walk your hands out in front. Lowering your chest down gently between the knees. And then if you feel ready, dropping your elbows and your forehead down all the way onto the mat. Now, if you're finding this is not comfortable on shoulders, you might want to bend the arms. You might want to wrap them beside your thighs. I want you just to get into a place where you feel really supported. Child's pose is like all of our forward folds, really calming, really regulating, and it slows down that stress response immediately. Make any adjustments you need in order to feel really rested here. And start to bring awareness to your breath. Taking a big breath in. Slow breath out. Just letting that belly expand between those inner thighs. Feeling the back of the rib cage, the shoulders expanding and opening with every breath in. And then with your exhale, just let the whole body get heavier. Feel like you are dropping deeper and deeper to the mat. And stay here for another 3 long breaths, just starting to really slow everything down. And as you feel ready, just start to walk the hands in towards your legs. Just make your way up to a sitting position now. If you're not comfortable kneeling, just sit cross-legged and pop the cushion under your hips if you prefer. Rest the hands down in front. Just roll back your shoulders. Open out your chest here. Let's keep those eyes closed. Just taking another couple of deep breaths here, taking a few moments to really arrive in your body. Just being aware of how you're feeling today. Any emotions that are present. Any thoughts that keep coming up. Stay here for one more deep breath. And then as you're ready, just lift up onto those knees. Walk the hands forward and let's make our way into our cat-cow here. So placing the hands directly under shoulders, knees under hips. Just start by dipping your belly down towards the mat. Open out your chest. Look forwards and just really stretch out across the front of the belly, the abdomen. And then with your exhale, round the spine. So push down through the mat. Tuck the chin towards the chest. Just feel that big stretch along the back of the spine. And then in your own time, reverse again. Inhale, lengthen, lift. Exhale, rounding up. Just keep those going in your own time. Then if you feel like your body needs just a little bit more movement here, let's start to take it into a circle. So you can let your hips just start to swivel around in a big circle here. So we keep going with that cat-cow position, but just adding a little bit of rotation into that movement as well. Just see what your body needs. If you prefer to just stick with our regular cat-cow, then you've always got that option as well. Good, and then start to reverse. If you went into those little circles, and then just making your way slowly back to your center. And just releasing that spine into the middle, really stretching through the crown of the head again. Now let's take the right arm and dive it through underneath us like we're coming into that thread the needle. So drop your right shoulder down onto the mat, maybe even resting the side of the forehead. And just pause here for a moment. Drop the shoulders from the ears, soften out your belly. Just relax as much as you can into the back of that right arm and shoulder blade. And then as you're ready, we reach that right arm to the ceiling. Let's take a big breath in as we stretch it up, open out the chest. And then exhale, thread the needle again. Let's do 2 more reaches up, all the way up, opening and lifting. And releasing down. Dropping a little deeper down into that shoulder if you can. Let's do 1 more big inhale. And then adding on, as you're reaching that right arm up, maybe take it into a bind. Wrap that hand behind your low back. Just pull the shoulder and the elbow up to the ceiling a little bit more. Turning the head as well if you can. That's it. And then release, coming back to all fours, back to your tabletop. Roll those shoulders back, reset. Let's come into the other side. So just take that left arm and let it drop down underneath you. So dropping down into that shoulder, just taking a moment here to open out across the back of your heart space. Good. Now with your inhale, let's reach up to the ceiling. So opening out that chest, big lift. And exhale, release it and lower it down. Now 2 more like this, big reach up. And drop it down. So let's come up 1 more time. And then wrap that arm behind your lower back, only if it feels comfortable for your shoulder. Keep rotating, looking upwards if you can. 1 more inhale. And then exhale, release that arm. That's it. Just sit back onto your heels gently here. Reach your arms forward and just round the back here for a gentle stretch. Good. Now let's make our way up to all fours. Good. And from here, we take the knees just a little bit wider. Good. Walk the hands just a little bit further. And let's start to shift those hips forwards and backwards. Good. So we've done lots of release work for that upper and mid back area. And now we're going to come down a little deeper towards the lower back and the pelvis. Good. Now on the next one, as you shift the hips back, take them into a circle and then roll it around the other way. Good. So really gentle, mindful movements here. Let's see if we can start to coordinate these movements alongside the breath. So inhale forwards. exhale back. Really softening the belly. Good, taking away tension from the pelvic floor muscles. And then let's start to reverse, going around the other way. And nice big breaths. And then let's slowly just travel back in towards our center. And release. Now come back and take another child's pose, just sinking back into the hips. Reach forward to the mat. And just starting to notice how you feel compared to the first time we came here today. Just being aware of any sensations within the body. Anywhere your mind is still wanting to go. And let's take one more breath. Now, if you do currently have your periods and it is the first couple of days of the bleed and it feels heavier, I'd just like you to stay down here in your child's pose. Otherwise, we're going to make our way up to downward facing dog. So walk the hands forward, tuck your toes, and just slowly lift your hips. But let's start with nice bent knees. So we want to ease into our down dog really gently. Good, open out across the chest, the collarbones. Create some space between your shoulders and ears. Lift the hips nice and high, and then just drive your chest a little closer to thighs if you can. And then we start to pedal out the feet. Good. Down dog is one of my favorite and one of the best fertility yoga poses because we get so many benefits in one pose. You know, it is a forward fold. So again, it is regulating for that nervous system. It's an inversion, so we get to nourish all of the glands around the heart, the thyroid, and in the brain with new blood flow and circulation. And it's a lovely way to open out tightness in the shoulders, the spine, and the legs. So it does so much. Now, if you're ready, we bring both of the heels just down towards the floor. That's it. Stay there for a moment. Now, we're not forcing it. If your heels don't touch the mat, it's never an issue. Lift the hips a little higher. Just open out the chest a little wider. And so whether you're still down in your child's pose or you're up with me in this down dog, let's just take 3 long breaths. Just listening to the sound of that breath. Seeing if you can slightly constrict the back of the throat with your exhale. Coming into that Ujjayi breath, which again is a way of calming the body and the mind. And then, as you're ready, let's all release and come slowly back down. Good. Beautiful. Now just sit back onto those heels. Everyone joining now. I'm just going to move slightly forwards. Good. From here, let's reach your arms out in front. We're going to come into some seated rotation work. Let's take your right arm to the ceiling. Big inhale. And as you exhale, reach that hand behind you onto the mat. That's it. So you're just going to reach it there and then take the left arm up and lean slightly back into your hand. Good. So getting a gentle release across the ribs, a little bit of a twist in that upper back, and then slowly come back to your center. Let's take it to the other side. Good. So right arm will reach up and over. Good. Take it back and then just reach it across. Adding that gentle twist around that upper back. Good. Release back to the center. Beautiful. Let's do one more each side. So as you rotate up and back this time, if you feel ready, you can start to lift your hips as you reach up to the ceiling. So that's going to offer you a gentle hip opener, as well as that gentle rotation in the spine. Sit. Slowly inhale, release. Exhale back to center. And other side, reach back, lifting the hips if you can. Good. This can feel like quite a deep pose for a lot of people, so just go gently with it. Want to be able to open those hips as much as we can, but not with any force. Let's do one more on each side. So reaching up and back, big reach, big lengthened feeling through that top arm. Good, and lower, last one here. Good. Reach it up, left. And bring it down. Awesome work. So let's continue to focus on opening out our hips now. Let's come up to a high kneeling position. Good. Now, if you need more support for your knees underneath you, if this mat's a bit hard, just double the mat over so you've got a little bit more support. Step the right foot forwards. Just leave that left knee underneath your pelvis. And I want you to focus here on really tucking that tailbone under. So already in that tucked under feeling, you should have that stretch going across those left hip flexors. And we just start to slightly shift the body forward. So we don't have to come into a really deep low lunge here. It's more about that tuck under of the tailbone, which really opens out the psoas, the biggest hip flexor muscle there, and just leaning back slightly through the shoulders at the same time. And now to deepen this pose, we take the left arm up to the ceiling, big reach high, and then we side bend over and across the body. Now, the more you push the hips forward here and the more you lean to the side, the more you're going to feel that openness in the hips. Beautiful. We're going to stay here and take one more deep breath. And then release that arm all the way up. Start to shift your hips backwards, flexing that front foot and extend that front leg forward. If you need a bit more space, just shift it a little bit away from you. And then start to fold forward into our half split. Now, if this front leg is a bit bent, that is absolutely fine. If you need to just soften it slightly, go for it. It doesn't matter how straight your leg is. Just think about drawing that right hip backwards a little bit so we square off the pelvis. See if you can flex your toes upwards. That's it. And just start to breathe into the back of that right leg, opening out the back of your hip. With your exhale, maybe even letting the body drop a little deeper. And let's take one breath in here. And then just walk your hands forward and let's step back into our tabletop position. Good. Now, if you are menstruating, I'd like you to go back to cat-cow. If you aren't, we can go back to down dog and just hold. So just see what your body needs. Maybe the feet need to pedal out a few more times. Maybe now you just want to come into that place of stillness and start to breathe deeply. Soften out your belly, no matter where you are here. And let's take one more big breath. Good. Now, whether you're at tabletop or down dog, we're going to take that right leg and just stretch it out behind us. Doesn't have to go high. And then bend that right knee forward so it lands between your hands. And then the back leg, we straighten out and we stretch it behind. So we're coming into Kapotasana here, our pigeon pose. Now just bring your hands just in front of you so they're supporting your body weight. Keep your body upright. And when we're practicing, maybe if you're at a studio, traditionally in yoga, we try to practice pigeon with the shin parallel with the top of the mat. But I find that is a very intense pose for a lot of people. So to bring it into more of a restorative version, just bring that foot a little closer towards you. And then just kind of wiggle out the hips here. If you've got a pillow nearby and you need it for that right hip for a bit more support, you can pop it under there. And I just want you to start to sink into that right hip. Good. Now, if you are currently undergoing any kind of medicated cycles and your ovaries are swollen, What I'd like you to do is just stay upright. Keep your chest high. But if you want and you'd like to go a little deeper, we can drop the body down, elbows, maybe palms to the mat, and release forward. And just starting to breathe a little more deeply into your right hip here. Now, pigeon pose is, again, one of the best ones that we can do throughout our restorative practices here, as they really allow you to use your body weight to find that release. And they give you a moment of letting go, being able to use your breath to go deeper into that hip release. To really soften your belly, let it be really, really soft here. And with every exhale, just find somewhere else in the body that you can let go just that little bit deeper. And stay here for 2 more big breaths. And then really take your time here as you come out of it. So we walk the hands slowly back towards us. Make your way to sitting. And then bring those knees back underneath you. We're going to fold down onto our belly. And as we come down onto the belly, just let the legs relax for a moment. We're going to come into our mini cobra here to start. So feet can be either together or apart, whatever's comfortable for your lower back, palms beside chest. As you breathe in, just peel your chest up off the mat, roll back your shoulders, really expand across the chest, the collarbones, and then release the body down. Let's take an inhale, lift again, maybe a little higher this time. Exhale down, and we'll do one more. Now feel free to come up as high as you wish. Really letting that body just lengthen and open. Good, and release down. Now as you come back down onto your belly, we're going to stay there and just make our way into a variation of pigeon here on the belly. It's a really lovely yin pose. So I'm going to take your right knee and just bend it up beside you. I'll do it on my left leg here so you can see a little bit more easily. So we want to make sure that the knee it'll be slightly off the mat, and you can bring that knee up as close towards the shoulder as you want. But if you are quite tight in your hips, I don't want you to force this, okay? So just find a place that you can gently maintain that hip opener. So whether the knee is just right back, down low, or up higher, it's up to you. And then just let your forehead drop down onto the back of the hands or the forearms. And as we're here, we can practice our crocodile breaths. So drop down into the body. Really allow your belly to expand deeply into the floor with every breath in. And then just slowly let it go with that exhale. Just again, using that exhale as an invitation to really release and surrender. And seeing if you can soften into your hip just that little bit more. Just stay here for one more deep breath. And then just start to slowly unwind out of this pose. So bringing the legs back together on the mat. Just give the legs a little bit of a shake out, wobbling the thighs. Now we're going to meet back in our child's pose. So just take your time. Knees can be wide, they can be together, whatever's comfortable. And just stay here for a couple of breaths. Good, and then just slowly return back up to kneeling now. We're going to go through our gentle flow on the other side. So let's come back up to that high kneeling. I'm sure we remember all that, but I'll walk you through it. So let's just have the knees under hips to start. Make the knees comfortable as much as you need to. Now it's the left leg that we step forwards, and just start with the knee right underneath, the foot right underneath the knee. Now we tuck the tailbone. So I want you to really draw that pelvis forward, feeling that right psoas, those hip flexors starting to open out. And then just push the pelvis very slightly forwards, but keep tucking under. And then it's the right arm that's going to reach upwards and bend over and across the body. And as you breathe in here, just feel like you create more space between the ribs, just opening out all those intercostals, just creating space for those energy channels down along the side of the body to start to flow. Keep tucking the hips under, breathing into it. And then just release that arm. Start to shift your hips backwards. Stretch out your front leg as much as you can and lean forward into half split. So you can take your hands down if you want to. If that's too much, just stay upright. Try to pull that left hip slightly back so that you feel a little more release to that hamstring. Maybe even using your exhale to fold that little bit deeper. We just see what works for the body. We're never forcing it. We're just kind of easing into things really gently. Flexing the toes upwards to the ceiling. Let's stay here for one more deep breath. Relaxing the belly, the shoulders. And then just slowly walk out to all fours. Remember, if you are menstruating, come back to your cat-cow pose. Otherwise, come back to down dog. Last one here for our practice today. Dropping into heels, lifting the hips. Just really lengthening the whole body. One more breath wherever we are. Then inhale, just float the left leg up and away from you, whether you're on your knees or up in your down dog. And then bend that left knee towards the hands, landing now back in our Kapotasana. Back leg releasing away. If you've got a pillow around and you need it, just pop it under the left hip. Now just wiggle out a little bit from side to side. I really love to ease into this slowly rather than just dropping straight down. And these really deep hip openers are a good way to bring awareness to any imbalances or differences in the body. We usually find one hip holds more tightness than the other. Again, it isn't about judgment, it's just about awareness. Good. And then if you do feel ready, come down. Remember, if you do have any kind of swelling around the ovaries, please stay up. Otherwise, coming down, drop. Find where it works for you. And now we get to use that breath even more deeply. Just to come down into that feeling of letting go. The hips are one of the strongest areas within the body, same as the jaw. And we find in an acute stress response, it is the jaw and the hips that contract first. So if we are feeling like we are stressed a lot of our day, it is one reason that we tend to end up holding a lot of tension and tightness in hips and, of course, the jaw. But this area is very connected. And often feel emotional to let go of tightness in hips as well. There is so much we don't realize that we're holding on to. Now, as you feel ready, we're going to unwind ourselves back to the top. Set and just bring yourself back to all fours. And then just slowly unfold onto the belly. And let's return to cobra. So palms just go flat beside you. Big inhale as you lift yourself up. You come up as far as you feel comfortable. Roll back those shoulders, really open chest, maybe slightly lifting the chin, open out through the throat, the thyroid. And then exhale, release. Let's do 2 more. Big inhale as we come up. Exhale, release. Let's do 1 more. Big inhale. Now hold it up here. Just really expand the chest. And then just start to turn the shoulders from side to side a little bit here. And I find that creates a little bit more of a release through the abdomen and the front of the hips. Just do 1 more each way. Be super gentle with it. And then come all the way back down. And now slowly take that left knee out to the side into that supported half pigeon, and just find a place that's comfortable to rest your head. Remember, adjust the knee in any way that you need so the hip feels as relaxed as possible. And with your exhale here, what we're trying to do is just let both of the hips sink to the mat. So really letting gravity and your body weight release you. Really letting that belly press into the floor with your inhale. The whole body just sinks into the mat with the exhale. And let's take 1 more breath here. Now bring those legs back together on the mat. And just give them a little bit of a shake, really gentle wobble out. And just let go of any last little bits of tension. We're going to meet back in child's pose. So you take your time. Good. Stretch out the spine. Breathe into the back of the body. And then when you're ready, just come up to sitting. Keep the eyes closed. As you're up to sitting, place 1 hand over your lower belly, the other hand at your heart center. And let's take that moment to reconnect with how you're feeling. Let's find a moment of stillness. And then blink those eyes open, release. So when you come into a seated position now, you can face the front. And if you want to sit on your pillow, please feel free. All right, so we're going to come into our seated Baddha Konasana here, this butterfly pose. So let's begin with soles of the feet together and just begin by stretching them slightly away from you. So your legs make kind of this diamond shape here. Grab a hold of the ankles, good, and just start to let that body kind of soften. You can round the shoulders a little bit, maybe just dropping forward slightly. And then add a little bit of a lean from side to side. This is a really great way to release tension in the lower back. And it can be quite a deep stretch for a lot of us. So, like everything, just go gently. Just kind of find what works for you. And last little stretch here each way. And then let that body fold forwards. Bring the crown of the head down. So the release here is more about just kind of opening back of the hips and the low back. So it's up to you how deep you want to take it. And let's just stay here for one more deep breath. And then start to slowly walk hands back in. Now pull those heels closer towards you. So you can bring them in as close to the pelvis as you like. And just let the knees just kind of drop to the side. You might want to do like a little butterfly wing, little gentle pulse of the knees up and down just to kind of ease out those inner thighs. And just let the knees kind of stop. And if the knees are up here, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't matter where they are. I just want you to be able to drop into it. And then if you'd like to go deeper, once again, we fold forward. Just letting that belly really expand with the breath in. And let the whole body just release deeper with the breath out. And take one more big breath here. And then slowly release back up. So let's continue to open out across the pelvis and the inner thigh. Take your right leg and stretch it wide. It doesn't matter how far back the leg is. You can angle it forward if that's more comfortable for you. So just find a comfortable seat as much as you can. This can feel really tight for a lot of us. So just go gently into it. If you want to bend the knee, that's totally fine as well. Now take your left arm, stretch it high, big inhale. And as you exhale, just slowly slide the fingers down towards the ankle, maybe even grabbing the toes. And I want you to slowly look upwards. That's it. So we're focusing here on getting that beautiful side bend. At the same time, we're opening out into the pelvis and the inner thigh. Take a big breath into the left side rib cage, just expanding the chest. Soften the shoulder away from that ear a little bit more. And let's take one more big breath here. Good. And with your next inhale, come up to sitting. Now reach that left hand behind you and open out into a gentle twist. So just relax the legs. Just use your hands to help rotate the spine. Look over past the shoulder behind you. Soften out the belly. Crown of the head reaching to ceiling. Shoulders releasing down from the ears. Last breath here. And then back to center. So just bring the soles of the feet back together in the middle. And just again, add that little kind of butterfly release here. Just noticing how that same pose is feeling. Let's take it out to the other side now. So as you're ready, left leg will stretch wide. All right, so sit bones nice and heavy underneath you. Take that right arm up, big inhale. And then exhale, let's start to reach down towards the ankle, maybe even grabbing the toes. And again, it doesn't matter what the pose looks like for you, as long as you can just soften into it a little bit. Maybe even starting to turn the head and look up. Really stretching out through the side ribs, shoulder away from ear. Big belly breaths. Let's take one more breath here. And then with your next inhale, release all the way up. And then exhale, let's go over into that open twist. Now drop into the hips. Use your hands to help rotate the spine. Shoulders away from ears. Crown of head reaching to ceiling. And then release back to center. And then just one last time, bring soles of the feet together and release those hips. Hopefully feeling just a little more open across the pelvis here. And now let's find a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's crossed legs, maybe it's kneeling. Pillow underneath hips is totally fine. And so we're going to do some really gentle breathwork exercises now to start really dropping into that parasympathetic state, that place of calm and peace. And then we're going to come down and lay on our backs to complete our meditation to finish. So just start off here by placing both hands at the lower belly. But you can close your eyes if you want to. And I want you to take a couple of deep breaths. And as you breathe here, really feel the belly pressing into the hands with the inhale. And then just feel the abdominals just soften with the exhale. So do one more. And now place the hands just down around the lower ribs, just beneath your chest. And this time as you breathe in, I want you to feel your ribs expanding out into your hands. So big inhale. Just let the whole diaphragm fill up, open out, create space, and release. Let's do one more. And last of all, bring the hands just around the top of the chest. That's it, just around top of those ribs. And this time I want you to breathe up into here. So right up into the top of the chest. Just feel those collarbones expanding, the shoulders widening. Release them as you exhale. Beautiful. So this is called our 3-part breath. And here now I just want you to relax your arms. You can have your palms facing up. And what we do is with our inhale, we breathe first into the belly, then into the ribs, and then into the chest. And then with the exhale, everything just softens. So let's practice that together now. Inhale through belly, ribs, chest. Big exhale, release it all the way down. You can exhale through the nose or the mouth, up to you. Again, belly, inhale, ribs, chest, and exhale, release. You might find that slightly moving the body as you breathe here helps get more space. So really lifting, opening ribs and chest with that inhale. And then just letting everything drop with the exhale. Let's do 3 more like this. Belly, ribs, chest. Big release. Just 2 more in your own time. And then just settle the breath back into its natural rhythm. Pausing for a moment here. And then when you feel ready, we're going to lay down onto our backs. You can get yourself totally comfortable, pillows, blankets if you want to grab them, whatever you need. We're going to be here for about 5 minutes or so. So just make your way down onto the mat. Make any adjustments in order to get really comfortable. Now, slowly when you're ready, close your eyes and just start to continue those gentle breaths. I'll invite you to place both of your hands over your low belly to begin. Just bringing your awareness now beneath your hands and into your womb space. Imagining that there is a little ball of glowing golden light just sitting deep within the womb. And as you breathe in, notice how this light starts to expand. This ball of light is growing now, filling up all through the womb, up through the fallopian tubes to the ovaries, expanding down past the cervix. So this whole area of the pelvis now is just bathed in this beautiful, glittering, golden, warm light. Just keep your awareness on that light. And place your left hand over your heart center now. The next time you breathe in, draw this golden light all the way up to your heart center. Big, big inhale, pausing just a very short moment at the top of that breath in. And then with your exhale, just watch as that light travels back down from the heart to the womb. It settles there for a moment before you breathe in, and again, bring that light back up to the heart space. Exhale back down to the womb. Just continue like this in your own time. Connecting these two beautiful, inseparable centers within you. In Chinese medicine, the womb is the second heart, which makes sense because it is your baby's first home. It's where their heart will grow and it will be forever connected to yours. Now just letting that light travel back down into the low belly. You can place both hands back down there as well. Just keep the light there and for a moment connect with your womb space and just send your love, your thoughts, your prayers down, asking your womb if there is anything she needs you to know or be aware of. You can either keep your hands as they are or you can open them to the sides now with your palms facing up. And spend the last few moments of our practice here just following your breath, letting go of thoughts. Now, when you're ready, let's take a big breath in. And just let your exhale create a little bit of movement back in the body, maybe letting the head rock side to side, wiggle out the fingers, the toes. I want to stretch the arms up and overhead. Now, keeping the eyes closed, when you're ready, roll over onto your side and just pause here for a moment longer. We're going to make our way slowly up to sitting now. Again, if you can, just keep the eyes closed. Just coming to that really gentle place, a comfortable seat on your mat. Press both hands gently against your chest. Now I'll invite you to set an intention for the rest of your day, the rest of your week, maybe this coming month. And just know you have the power to come into this place of calm and stillness and peace whenever you need it. It is here within you. Bring your hands together at prayer. Let's take a big breath in together. And as you exhale, let your head bow forwards. Namaste. It's been my absolute pleasure to practice with you these last 3 days, to share some of these tools with you. And I hope that you're able to take them with you on your own fertility journeys in any way that you need them. And if you have any questions and you're here with me live today, please stick around and I'm very happy to chat to you about anything that you need. And if you would like to go deeper with these practices, if you want to start using yoga especially to work alongside your cycle, different practices for each phase of the cycle, we get a little deeper into mindset work and different manifestation practices as well that we can incorporate, where we really start to take yoga off the mat. And I find that's where the beauty of it all comes in. This is like the training ground, for the rest of your life. Within my program, which is opening tomorrow, we also have there's so much. I'm so excited about this. We have 4 live classes a week, so you can join me and do practices like this. We have regular live workshops. I have 2 fertility specialists coming in to chat to us over the next 6 weeks, as well as the author of The 5th Vital Sign, Lisa Hendrickson Jack, who's going to be talking to you about the power of your menstrual cycle. We have access to a fertility nurse who can read test results, guide you on any treatments that you might have. We'll walk you through IUI, IVF cycles, frozen embryo transfer cycles, everything in between, nutrition, supplementation, all of the things. It's a program that I've put together over the last 4 years that I'm so proud of. It's $39 per month. There are no joining fees. You can cancel anytime. I like to keep the group size fairly small because I just like to give everyone individual attention. I like to be able to write personal programs for everyone so that you know what you should be doing at each phase of your cycle. You know how to incorporate other types of exercise that you love within it. So if that sounds like something you want to give a go, I'd love for you to join me. Doors open tomorrow for about 6 days usually, or until places fill up. So sending you so many wishes for your fertility journey and beyond. And please reach out to me anytime you need. You can grab me on email, via my Instagram, and I'm always happy to answer your questions. So thank you again for being here these last 3 days, and I hope to see you soon.